Madam Clerk, we're waiting on you, so whenever you're able to unmute yourself and call the roll, we'll proceed with the regular meeting.
Councilor Gomez. Councilor Gomez.
Councilor
Councilor
Gomez.
Present.
Present. Councilor Whitfield.
Present.
Present. Councilor Davila.
Present.
Present. Councilor Fenton.
Present.
Present. Councilor Curran.
Present.
Present. Councilor Ramos.
Present.
Present. Councilor Walsh.
Present.
Present. Councilor Williams.
Present.
Present. Councilor Allen.
Present.
Present. Councilor Letterman.
Present.
Present. Councilor Edwards.
Present.
Present. Councilor Brown.
Present.
Present. Councilor Earth.
Present. Will the councilors and their guests please rise for a moment of silence? Will you please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to
and
the
to the
republic
republic
For which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands, one nation, under God,
with liberty,
indivisible,
justice for all.
for all.
Madam Clerk, or actually, are there any reports of committee? Councilor Ramos.
Mr. President, thank you. The Public Safety Committee of the Springfield City Council met earlier today at 4:30 via Zoom. There was one item on the agenda, which was discussion of the Internal Investigations Unit of the Springfield Police Department, as well as the Community Police Hearing Board. More specifically, the purpose of the meeting was to discuss the changes and or improvements that have been made to the Springfield Police Department in terms of investigating cases of police misconduct and how the IIU and the CPHB conduct their investigations. There were two representatives present from the Springfield Police Department. One was a lieutenant from the IIU, and the other one was Deputy Chief Daniels. And Attorney Bakula and Attorney G represented the CPHB. Counselors had an opportunity to ask questions. The Internal Investigations Unit reported on their process for investigating cases of police misconduct and some of the challenges that they face. The CPHB representatives reported as to their process and some of the conflicts that they face as well. We asked questions regarding the DOJ report of July 9th and how that has changed the way that they do business. Unfortunately, I'm reporting to the full council that there haven't been many changes since the DOJ report, and much more work needs to be done. And so I will be scheduling a meeting in the near future to discuss this further. And just a reminder to everyone that I do have another public safety meeting scheduled for Tuesday the 27th to discuss the supervisor's proposed contract.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Are there any other reports of committee? Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we had a Finance Committee meeting. Most of the counselors were there. Appreciate that. We mainly talked about the unexpended bond fund and the term of the bond and how it can be used on other capital improvement projects. And what we were explained is that the 20-year bond can only be used for other 20-year useful life projects or more. We can't go below that time, and there's specific projects that the unexpended bond can be used for. We agreed that it should go to the golf course in this instance because the golf course does generate revenue, and some of the additional revenue can be used for other projects in the future. But we will also look for other funding that is available for projects related to community projects and some of the things that we hear from the community. And so I will schedule a finance meeting after meeting with TJ and Lindsay and anyone else who wants to meet. We can all meet together. And we did go over financial orders, which we will go over in this meeting, and they were fairly self-explanatory.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Are there any other reports of committee? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on accepting the reports of committee?
Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Councilor Gomez. Councilor Gomez.
He said
I
yes.
said yes.
Sorry. Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Earth.
Yes. The reports of committee are approved. Madam Clerk, will you please call the first item on the agenda?
I have here a petition for CMA Gilbert Avenue.
Thank you. Is there anyone present to speak to this petition? Please state your name and
Yes,
address for the record.
Yes, I'm Hector Valles. Can you hear me?
Sorry.
Yes, I can hear you.
Engineering Department, DPW,
Address?
1956 Parker Street.
Thank you.
That petition is from Columbia Gas to supply service for 14 new houses at the end of Gilbert Ave.
Thank you.
They're gonna update from low pressure to medium pressure, Gilbert Ave and Stevenson Avenue.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the council? Councilor Letterman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is there a representative from Eversource present? I know this is Columbia Gas petition, but Eversource has recently taken over all operations.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, this is Matthew Nichols.
Great. Matt, could you introduce yourself to the council and tell us about the project from your perspective?
Yes, so my name is Matthew Nichols, engineer with recently Columbia Gas, now Eversource. Basically, the project spawned out of 14 new construction buildings that are being built along, like Hector said, along the southern end of Gilbert Avenue. We do have low pressure existing on that street that serves approximately 10 to 12 customers at the beginning of the street. We have medium pressure on the next street over, so we decided out of this project we would just bring in medium pressure onto Gilbert Ave and tie over all those existing customers, as well as add the 14 new customers to upgrade them, essentially.
Okay, thank you, Matt. I appreciate it, Mr. President. I just wanted to make sure that we continue to have representatives from the gas utility present as we go through the transition. I'm glad there's one here tonight. We know we'll have a lot of conversations in the future, so thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Councilor Ramos.
Hector, what is the condition of the road at this time? Is that, I believe it's the furthest end of Gilbert Ave. Is that the dirt road part of Gilbert?
Yes. The new houses is dirt road, and there's a section, but it's not new paving. There's a few years.
Yeah, the road is in terrible condition. Are there any plans to resurface that section of the road?
I don't have the list of paving right here with me, but I can verify that. I don't have it right here with me.
I believe it's every 2 years that we sort of regrade dirt roads, and I believe is due. At least the last time that I went bike riding out there, I saw that the roads were in terrible condition. So it might be due for resurfacing. And I just want to remind my colleagues that, this is the reason why I proposed the private ways ordinance. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get it on the agenda for this evening, but at the next regular meeting, I will be reintroducing that ordinance. These are, was it 14 new houses?
Yes.
For 14 new houses built by a gentleman, I believe it's Tom Bretta, correct? These are Tom Bretta houses?
Yes.
Yeah. So, he built some great houses. He built my house, and he does very good work. Families are going to be buying these houses, beautiful homes, with the expectation that one day the city is going to pave their road. So now the responsibility falls on us to pave this dirt road. The reason why we propose this ordinance is to prevent this thing from happening again. We should not be allowing developers, regardless of how beautiful the houses are, we should not be allowing developers to build houses on dirt roads without the commitment of repaving these roads to city standards. So I'm hopeful that my colleagues will support my ordinance when it comes before us at the next regular meeting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. If there are no further questions or comments regarding this petition, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on accepting this petition or approving this petition?
Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown.
Yeah.
Yes. Councilor Earth.
Yes, the petition is approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
I have here a Grant Parks Department donation, Kennefic Park, $185,000.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anyone present to speak to this grant? Please state
Yes,
your name and address for the record.
Yes, Patrick Sullivan, Executive Director of Parks, Buildings, and Recreation, 17 Arvesta Street, Springfield, Mass. This is a generous donation from Bay State Medical Center for the improvements towards Kennefic Park. We had received a state grant along with Pago Capital and CDBG funding. And this donation will allow us to start the phase 2 improvements for this park renovation project. And we had our kickoff meeting for construction last week.
Thank you, Pat. Are there any questions or comments from the council regarding this grant? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on accepting this grant?
Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Earth.
Yes, the grant is approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
I have election COVID response grant, no match required, $160,672.50.
Is there anyone present to speak to this item?
Hi, yes, Gladys Oyola, Election Commissioner, 38 Roland Street, Springfield, Mass.
Floor is yours.
Yeah, the grant is in the amount of $160,000, and it is for anything associated with the November 2020 election. As the chairwoman said that there is no match for it, and it can be used or expended on anything related to this November election without any, without any stipulations.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the council? Councilor Ramos?
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioner Oyola, I know that
Sorry, Councilor Ramos. That is my apologies.
Commissioner Oyola, my question is in regards to voting machines. I know that that's not what's on the agenda this evening. However, since we have you in front of us, we'd love to ask you about this issue. Under the city's capital improvement plan of FY20 and FY21, new voting machines has been a priority A. However, there's, to my knowledge, been no effort to replace these voting machines. I know that they are in dire need of being replaced. I could tell you from my experience in the primary election, there were several locations which had issues with printing out the results at the end of the night. There were probably 3 or 4 locations who were unable to print. There were probably 2 other locations that printed blank receipts. So I know that there are a very big need. There's a very big need to replace these machines. What, to your knowledge, is being done to accomplish that?
Thank you for the question. We have been working with the finance team, as you stated, for years now to try to get the monies together or to try to actually allocate the funds, not only for the election equipment needed to cover everything that we have currently, but to actually upgrade. I was having a conversation with Councilor Whitfield because she was asking what election technology we needed to improve the function of the office. And another thing would be e-poll books. So with the cost savings, these election grants don't ever, to my knowledge, really get expended due to COVID. It's something that's kind of like a one-off that we've seen. And so the fact that it covers all of our election costs will leave all of the money that we have budgeted for elections kind of in the kitty and in play to get new voting equipment, something that we spoke at the Finance Committee meeting. And going forward, we're gonna be speaking to Finance. TJ has made this a priority as well. Because we do need the equipment. It's over 25 years old at this point and it has held out. But what you pointed out as issues are, valid issues. Printing of the tape is something that we can redo here at City Hall, but it's something that we shouldn't have to as a community, 3rd largest community in the state. So hopefully this money will help get us the new voting equipment we need before next year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Councilor Davila, followed by Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Commissioner. Good to see you. Now, quick questions. My questions are regarding the elections and COVID-19. You did say that it could be used for anything related to the elections, correct?
Correct.
Okay. If I may, and I apologize, I wasn't able to get to you before this meeting, but during the primary, I heard some concerns, mainly on my district in Forest Park, from some of the poll workers, and they have 2 main issues. One, the shields that are used when you first come in and you register. Many of the polls only had 1 shield between the voter and the poll worker, with two clerks there. So are we planning to get more of those shields, and are they going to be higher? And also my second question to that will be the sanitizing. I do believe that this year is going to be a record-setting voter. So we hope. I think last primary we had 1.6 million people voted in the primary. And I believe I saw the Commissioner Carlton here as well. She could chime in terms of sanitizing the booth with the more people walking through. Do we have any plans, or is there any need to every so often sanitize the tables / equipment so that we can keep up with so many people, so many hands at once?
To address the first part of your question first, so with PPE for the primary, we had PPE that was created internally by Parks Department through Pat Sullivan's office, and that was enough to get us what we needed, which is really when you walk into the polling place, there is one clerk that checks you in, and that was the one table that was our main concern because that was the person who was going to be addressing every single voter that walked in. We have since received 2 additional partitions per polling place from the state.
Okay.
So in total, we'll have 3 per polling place. And then the state gifted or given every single city and town additional PPE. So each polling location will have those sanitizing kits that you're talking about, including sprays, wipes, gloves, and they received a donation from Anheuser-Busch of gallons of hand sanitizer and sanitizing liquid for all of the polling location. It's something that we're aware of, and we know that there will be a need for it. And to that end, part of the process when you go to vote is you check in, and then you also check out. So the state has allowed us to eliminate the checkout table, kind of as a duplicitous process. And so those 2 individuals that typically would be sitting down and checking a voter out on the way out of the polling location will now be walking around, trying to make sure that voters leave the polling location as soon as they're done with the process, wiping down the voting equipment, making sure that any pencils that are left behind get taken away, thrown away, and just trying to make sure that the process is one where it's as safe as possible.
Right. What about the actual sanitizing of tables or wiping them down every so often, or the voting equipment? Is that something that would be integrated in the process?
Correct. And it's actually happening right now. So if you go to our early voting site that we have here at City Hall, we have hired, and that's part of what the costs that, this grant thankfully will cover, is additional individuals that when a voter leaves, they're sanitizing the ballot box, they're sanitizing the voting booths, they're spraying things down, they're offering anyone that comes in without a mask, they're offering them a disposable mask that was also given to us as part of the PPE packets.
Okay. So that was actually a hint to my last question. So do we have enough masks for everybody, the staff and the voters coming in? And it seems to me the answer is yes.
Yes, we were donated over 1,000 masks. Yeah.
Okay, but at least all the poll workers are going to have a mask for sure. And I'm sure that the voters will have their own mask as well.
Correct.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Ayala. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Councilor Walsh, followed by Councilor Letterman, then Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just curious, Gladys, when you said there weren't any restrictions, what some of the expenses that might be covered with this grant. And I believe early voting started this weekend, correct?
Correct. Early voting started this past Saturday, October 17th, and it was extended this year to 14 days, as opposed to typically we'd have 1 full week and a weekend. So that we can use it to cover any of the early voting costs, because the extension really was for COVID, to give people more time to vote early as opposed to showing up at the polls on November 3rd.
Well, from the early voting that has started, can you predict a trend?
Well, the first few days, what we've seen here so far, 1,000 voters, a little over 1,000 voters that have voted in person in the first 3 days. I always anticipate more voters turning out at our Greenleaf site, because that seems to be a very popular location, and the neighborhoods that are adjacent to that site tend to vote in higher numbers as well.
And do you get a sense that people are concerned about their ballots being counted?
I think the people that are showing up to early voting are the ones that are concerned with the mailing process. We have right now over 23,000 vote by mail requests that have been processed, and roughly about 22,500 of those have already gone out, and we're working on our next batch this evening to send out in tomorrow's mail. I think over the course of the next week or so, we'll probably see another 1,000 applications. So about 24,000 vote by mail applicants, and the rest will either vote in person during early voting or on election day.
All right. Thank you. Keep up your good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Councilor Letterman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gladys, I know this item is not on election voting, voting equipment, voting machines, but since it's been brought up a couple of times, and potentially accepting the grant will lead to further expenditures, making it possible for future election equipment. What type of machines are you thinking of purchasing in the future?
So we are looking into what the state has to offer. There's several models that are used out and out here in Massachusetts. They have to be certified and accepted by the state. So the most recent one that we had a vendor come and show us was the DS200 voting equipment. And that's something that we could use here at each of the polling sites. It would make it easier, honestly, for us to be able to count our ballots prior to the election, where some municipalities and cities and towns are able to do the tabulation here at City Hall, for example, at a central site. Right now, what we're going to do with these ballots is send them out on election day, and they'll get counted at each polling site. And the new machinery will allow us to kind of be up with the times, as you know, as they say.
And would that maintain, though, would that maintain a paper ballot?
Yes, it would. It would still be a paper ballot. It would still be an optical scanner system. It wouldn't be printing a ballot on demand like some states have.
So we'll be maintaining a paper ballot no matter what?
Yes.
Okay, that was my concern. Thank you, Gladys.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hi, Gladys. You do an excellent job. I definitely commend you and all. I know your work is very difficult. I was just wondering, is it possible to actually increase the poll workers' pay? That's just one. Because a lot of the poll workers, I know that they are avid activists, and I mean, they stay there all day. And if it would be possible to do that, I would just, it would just suggest doing that if you can. And also, if you can maybe provide some lunch and breakfast, if we can like feed some of the poll workers. A lot of times I do it when I can. They're there all day. I'm just, wondering if this is something that maybe some of the funding can go to as far as taking care of some of the poll workers, because they're not doing it for the money. They're basically dedicating their whole day to, and you also, even your staff, a lot of times you guys are there and it can be hard. And you guys are frontline workers. I would just want to know, is any of that funding, and can any of that funding be allotted to some of the frontline workers? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. I appreciate you bringing up our poll workers. Honestly, I like to call them the face of the election. There is only one of me, but there are, close to 400 of our poll workers, and they really do the bulk of the work on election day to make sure that the process runs smoothly. So I agree with your suggestion that if we can use some of this money to give them some type of hazard pay, or, include a lunch stipend in. I mean, I think I would find myself hard pressed to try to order 64 precincts meals on election day in addition to the election. But I definitely think a stipend for lunch and breakfast would be, they would really appreciate it, because you're right, they do it as basically a paid volunteer. Many of them also bring in food for their locations and are there at 6 o'clock in the morning and end up going home around 9, 10 o'clock at night, depending on, what the situation is at their polling place. So I do agree. And that's something that I will ask finance about, because if we could, I think it would be a great way to show our appreciation for the work that they do. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Brown. Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. Commissioner, also want to commend you for the work that you do, especially around this time. The first question is a bit comical, the second not so much. I just wanted to confirm that I haven't found any ballots in any rivers, streams, or creeks.
Not to my knowledge. I will say, thankfully, we haven't heard of any ballots that are not where they're supposed to be. Let's put it that way.
And it's sad that that's a question that needs to be asked today. We'll ask it. The second is just in regards to recruitment around, especially dealing with COVID. We all know that some of the older populations are a bit more vulnerable. And, folks who tend, of course, to be retired sometimes are poll workers. A lot of them actually live in my ward. So I was just wondering, is there any recruitment around getting a more diverse pool of folks to be poll watchers, just considering the times and those who might be most susceptible to COVID?
Yes, we actually, I think it's been a statewide effort. I'm going to say that because the State Secretary of State's office has helped us to recruit poll workers. And I'm just going to say this kind of as a for the record thing across the board. And I'm glad this is a good venue for me to be able to share the same information with anybody within earshot. My preference always and will always be to have Springfield residents, Springfield voters be the people who work at Springfield polling locations. We've had many applicants that are from as far as Somerville that have expressed interest in working at our polling sites. We've had over 100 applicants. What we are doing though is offering the positions first to those individuals who have worked the polls. We have had some that for either health reasons or for, for their own safety have decided to step out for this election. But many of our poll workers, even given their ages, have decided that they want to work the election and are happy with the safety measures that we've put into place to make sure that they will be safe on election day and that the voters will be safe on election day. So I think if anything, we may be adding probably about 75 individuals to our mix of poll workers. Okay. And a lot of them are in what I'll call the younger range. So that varies from anywhere from 50 to 65 ages.
I appreciate that. Well, I think that's folks wanting to still do it. I think it's testament to the confidence they have, behind your kind of handling of election day, and probably they know that because of prior elections. So great job. I just want to thank you, and I appreciate you answering my question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Williams. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on accepting this grant?
Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hallen?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hurst? I'm sorry. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hurst?
Yes, the grant is approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
I have here item number 4, problem gambling grant increase, $120,000. No match.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anyone present to speak to this item?
Yes, Mr. President. Helen Carlton Harris, Commissioner, Division of Health and Human Services, 47 Overlook Drive, Springfield, Massachusetts. This grant is for our community health workers who work in our Office of Problem Gambling. It is a grant from the Public Health Trust Fund Executive Committee. They are doing a pilot with the City of Springfield for problem gambling based on our relationship with MGM. And so we're thrilled to be able to have community health workers work with us to do education. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any, Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Helen. I love the work that you do. I'm always honored to have you in my presence. You are the epitome of Black excellence. I know that they have an organization as far as there's a poll going on in regards of how gambling is affecting Latinos. So I was just, if you can, maybe I'm going to have them reach out to you. It's a neighbor to neighbor group. I don't know. I think it's something separate, but there's a poll that's going around also. It might be separate from you. If I can maybe come and speak with you a little later with the actual group, the actual individuals, but it's actually dealing with how it affects the Latino community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. We would be happy. We do have an individual, Chris Mary Gonzalez is our problem gambling coordinator for the city of Springfield, who is in my department. She has put together really a wonderful presentation, and maybe we can take the opportunity to collaborate and work together. We look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on approving this grant?
Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila. Yes. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hurst.
Yes, the grant is approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call items 5 and 6 together, please?
Item number 5, FY21 Greater Springfield Senior Services Grant Acceptance, $87,328. Item number 6, Elders Donation for $500.
Thank you. Is there anyone present to speak to item number 5 only? Is there anyone present to speak to item number 5? Sandy, I believe you at least were on the line before.
I'm still here, Justin. Sorry, I'm having quite a bit of problems here tonight with my computer. So I'm on the phone now.
Okay.
It's Sandy Federico, Director of Elder Affairs, Bradley Road, Springfield, Mass. And this Greater Springfield Senior Services Grant funds our salaries mostly for our outreach team who do direct outreach for seniors throughout the city of Springfield.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
To cut you off. No, I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead, finish.
No, I didn't know if we were doing the donation at the same time or you want to do it separately.
You actually don't need to speak to the donation unless you really want to. I'll defer to you.
No, I'm good.
Okay, Councilor Letterman.
Thank you, Mr. President. No, I just wanted to say thank you to Sandy and to the outreach team for whom this grant specifically funds. I've had the opportunity to reach out to them a couple of times during the pandemic, specifically to address concerns from seniors that have been in contact with requests for pretty serious constituent services, and having the outreach team be able to connect with those individuals has really been invaluable, especially in those instances. So glad to see us continuing on to receive the grant. And just wanted to say a special thank you to Sandy and the outreach workers specifically.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Councilor Letterman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sandy, I just had a quick question in regards to the outreach and any coordination around bus services. I've spoken to several seniors throughout the city about just kind of how PBTA, the bus routes change. And of course, the difference between appointments and scheduled times. It's just been a bit chaotic over the last 3 to 4 years. I was just wondering, does outreach do anything in particular in regards to coordination around bus routes?
They have put seniors in touch with every available service to them, and even have gone as far as checking into insurance policies that will pay for transportation for doctor's appointments and medical needs. So the answer is yes, as far as the outreach team goes, they do try to coordinate services for them. We also have partnered for, well, when we were open, that is, free transportation to the Ray Jordan Senior Center 3 days a week through Springfield Partners. And PVTA also runs 2 buses that come right to the center as well as along the routes of the city. I know they've changed their routes, but we still have connections for the seniors.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Williams. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on accepting grants 5 and 6, please?
Yes. Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Hallen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Earth.
Yes, the grants are approved. Madam Clerk, will you please call the next item on the agenda?
Yes. Item number 7, I have an order here, bills of prior year, DPW, $242.79.
Is there anyone present to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mr. President. Lindsay Hackett, Deputy CAFO, 80 Tamarack Drive in Springfield. This order is a bill of prior year for our DPW department. It's for services rendered in FY20. It is actually due to their copier. So it's a copier invoice, and we're just looking for authorization to pay using the FY21 funds.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments regarding this order from the council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, this requires a 2/3 roll call vote for passage. Can you please call the roll?
Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Earth.
Yes. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on suspending Rule 19 to take this order up in one vote?
Yes. Yes. Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Earth.
Yes, the order is approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
Yes. I have here item number 8, order authorizing prior mayor to execute quitclaim deeds for sale of East Side Newall Street, Lot 24 to Christine E. Barber.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there anyone present to speak to this item? Please state your name and address for the record. Okay, Again, is there anyone present to speak to this item?
I can speak to it if no one's here. Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
This is from, I just want to make sure I'm pulling up the right one here.
Take your time.
Newhall Street. Okay, good. Okay, so this is a quit claim deed for the sale of Newhall Street, 6,600 square feet to an abutter, Christine Barber, who owns 41 Newhall Street for the consideration of $660. That's the 10 cents per square foot for the abutter program. And the abutter intends to use the lot as landscaped open space to combine with her property.
Thank you, Lindsay. Are there any questions or comments from the council regarding this order? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilor Gomez.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield. Yes. Councilor Whitfield. Yes. Councilor Whitfield.
Absent.
Absent. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Earth.
Yes. Can you acknowledge Councilor Whitfield as well, who may be able to vote now?
Yes. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes, sorry, I lost internet.
Okay.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on suspending Rule 19 to take this order up in one vote?
Yes, Councilor. Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Earth.
Yes, the order is approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
I have here item number 9, order authorizing the transfer of the former Chestnut Junior High School to the New North Citizens Council, $150,000.
Thank you. Is there anyone present to speak to this item?
Good evening, councilors. Brian Connors, 274 Springfield Street, from the Economic Development Office. The item before you is to authorize the transfer of the former site of the Chestnut Junior High School, which is comprised of 8 total parcels, to the New North Citizens Council for a sale price of $150,000. New North plans to develop twin multi-story commercial buildings on the site, which would house a combination of community and health offices, a gymnasium, a library, and physical therapy. New North is partnering with Liberty Health Systems on the development, of the approximately $15 million proposal. The proposal is recommended from 3 proposals that were received by the city and reviewed by a review committee, which included Councilor Curran. It's also been reviewed by the Economic Development Subcommittee of the City Council, chaired by Councilor Gomez.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments regarding this order from the council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on approving this order? As a 2/3 roll call vote.
Councilor Gomez?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Earp?
Yes. Councilor Gomez, I see your hand is raised before we suspend Rule 19.
Yes, I just wanted to thank my colleagues for supporting this project. This project is very essential to the district of Memorial Square and to the North End. This is one of the districts out of the whole entire city that's never had a community center. And this is the first time in a long while we're actually going to have our own community center, our own open, a place where the community can come together and be able to thrive, and to be able to, for New North Citizen Council, obviously, to be part of that conversation in the neighborhood board. So for the most part, I just want to say thank you so much. This project is definitely essential, and it's going to mean a lot to the residents of the North End. So thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on suspending Rule 19 to take this order up in one vote?
Councilor Gomez?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown?
Yeah.
Yes. Councilor Earth?
Yes, the order is approved. Madam Clerk, will you please call the next item on the agenda?
Item number 10, election warrant.
So this item is under suspension, and I apologize for the order to my colleagues, but if there is no objection, we will take this under suspension. Is there anyone present to speak to this order?
Yes, Gladys Oyola, Election Commissioner, 38 Roland Street, Springfield, Mass. So the election warrant is pretty self-explanatory. It's for the election on November 2nd. Polling hours remain the same, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. State and federal offices will be on the ballot, as well as 2 questions, one being the right to repair and the second one being ranked choice voting.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the council? Councilor Letterman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, are there any changes to any polling locations on this warrant?
No, there is not. The polling locations all remain the same.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll? This requires a majority vote from the council.
Councilor Gomez?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Curran?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ramos?
Yes.
Yes, Council Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Council Williams.
Yes.
Yes, Council Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Council Letterman.
Yes.
Yes, Council Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Council Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Council Earth.
Yes, the order is approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
Item number 11, amending Chapter 355 TIF ordinance.
Is there anyone present to speak to this item?
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. This is an amendment to the TIF ordinance that we passed in 2019. Some of you may remember that I sent out a memo on February 10th. It was sent out to all of my colleagues. It was a memo explaining why we needed to make these changes to the TIF ordinance. If you give me a second, I'd like to read parts of it to you. So this came about after attending a couple of responsible employer ordinance committee meetings. It became evident that there were some issues that the law department had with the language of the TIF ordinance. And after a legal review, there were some recommendations that were made by Attorney Theophilus, I believe was the person who provided the review. And this is a result of his legal review. So during those TIF meetings, during those REO meetings, back in, I want to say October, November of last year, we were presented with a report from the general contractor at the Big Y warehouse expansion project, as well as the general contractor on the Brightwood School project. As you know, the purpose of the TIF ordinance was to ensure that developers who obtain this special property tax relief adhere to certain labor laws, including specific to our conversation this evening, the hiring requirements as outlined in the responsible employer ordinance, which are 35% city residents, 20% minorities, and 6.9% women. In other words, any contractor or any contractor or developer who agrees to accept a TIF from the city of Springfield has to adhere to those hiring requirements. In the reports that were provided to us at the responsible employer ordinance meeting, it was very obvious to me and to a lot of people that there was a discrepancy between the efforts that were being made at the Brightwood project compared to the Big Y project. And the reason why I compare those two is because the Big Y project was a TIF project. The city council approved a $4.9 million TIF, $4.9 million tax break to this company. And they were made aware at that meeting that they had to adhere to this criteria. And they agreed. In addition to that, they also signed a TIF agreement with the city of Springfield, which included this TIF ordinance. At that meeting, the report that they gave to us, which I shared with all of my colleagues, I don't know if you remember this, but you can see by the numbers that they were very different from what was going on in the Brightwood project. At the time, Big Y reported that of their 10,501 man hours as of October 2019, only 7.4% of their man hours had gone to city residents. Only 6.4% had gone to minorities, and 3.6% had gone to women, well below the agreed upon hiring requirements. By contrast, Brightwood reported that of their 17,365 total man hours, 31% had gone to city residents, which is pretty close to required 35%, 21% to minorities, which is slightly above the 20% required, and 13.6% to women, which is almost double the required for hiring women. And just to highlight one direct comparison, the company who did the concrete foundation for Big Y was a company out of New Hampshire. The company that did the foundation at Brightwood was a local company, local union company called Marguerite. And from the numbers that they provided to us, well, Marguerite had, the union company had hired 32% residents, 23% minorities, and 13% women. Forma reported 12% residents, 0% minorities, and 8% women. And Forma Foundations, again, is a company from New Hampshire that brought their own crew from New Hampshire. So again, the purpose of this TIF ordinance was to make sure that if a company accepts a tax break, and in this case, a very significant tax break, that they agree that their contractors will hire locally and that they will hire minorities and women on these projects. Big Y failed to do so. And so when it was reported to our law department for review, the decision that came back from the law department was that the TIF ordinance was unenforceable because of the language that refers to the responsible employer ordinance. In other words, the opinion further stated that the TIF ordinance should contain their own system of contract monitoring and compliance if the city legislature desires these items to be included in the TIF ordinance. In other words, they wanted us to spell out the hiring quota and the hiring requirements as opposed to referencing the REO. So that's the amendment that we're making tonight in this TIF ordinance. And I hope that that explains why we're making these changes. I do have one slight amendment that I want to make on the floor, but I would be happy to answer any questions if my colleagues have any.
Thank you. Councilor Letterman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just rise to thank our colleague, Councilor Gomez, or Councilor Ramos. I apologize. I was looking at Councilor Gomez's name there. Councilor Ramos for his work on this. And as an original co-sponsor of the TIF ordinance, I'm really disappointed to hear those numbers that Councilor Ramos has brought to the attention of today. You know, when we brought the TIF ordinance forward, it was because we recognized that when we're going to offer an incentive or accept a request for an incentive from a corporation or a company for what is essentially a tax break, you know, we want to make sure that it benefits all of our residents, the people that live and work here. And so, you know, we need those investments to come down and benefit those residents if we're going to see that type of deal get struck in the city. And so I think we certainly need to make sure that the ordinance is as enforceable as possible. And so I'll certainly be voting in favor of Councilor Ramos's amendment. I would request the clerk to be added as a co-sponsor. And I would also, the question I would pose to Councilor Ramos is, we also sponsored a piece of legislation relative to housing incentives, HDIPs, and with very similar language. So will we need to also amend the HDIP ordinance following this, Councilor Ramos?
Thanks. That's a good point, Councilor. So the HDIP ordinance has similar language. The issue became that because at the time, and this is the way that the clerk explained to me, because at the time we did not assign a chapter to the HDIP ordinance, when it was added to our database, it was combined with the TIF ordinance. So it was all made into one rather than separate ordinances. So I'm unclear as to whether, I think where we arrived after having a conversation with the clerk was that we would address the HDIP ordinance at the next meeting as a completely separate ordinance, and we make sure that we separate it this time. The other question is whether or not we changed the language in time for the HDIP ordinance, because if I remember correctly, we had this conversation with the law department before we passed the HDIP ordinance. So there may have been language in the HDIP ordinance that was different from the TIF ordinance that actually spelled out the hiring requirements rather than referencing the REO, which is the correct way of doing it. But I don't have that answer because I wasn't able to. We were unable to locate the actual language of the ordinance. So I'll have the answer for you for the next meeting. I think regardless, we will have to take the ASIP ordinance at the next meeting so that, to make sure that we have the correct language.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Councilor Gomez, followed by Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do rise also to support this amendment. I was one of the co-sponsors of this inception once we created this TIF, and also the other piece of legislation we were talking about, the HTIP. I know that the language, if I'm right, Councilor Ramos, kind of stipulates it's the same language, but the only thing that was different in the language was that we wrote TIF versus HDIP. So then they had said that it was unnecessary for us to kind of like spell it out. So unfortunately, obviously now, once we found out with these REO numbers, when we were talking about this particular project, when it came to the TIF that was given to Big Y, right now, I'm happy that you have brought this forth, and we're going to be voting on this tonight. I rise also to be put on as a co-sponsor, but also something to think about to my colleagues is, in the light of this time that we're talking about holding certain avenues and systems and institutions accountable. There was a piece of language that was implemented in this ordinance that, to me, still, if we continue finding these numbers to be inadequate, that I would suggest that in the future we should look into what was already struck out and took out, which was a clawback. And clawback, essentially, for the folks at home and people that don't understand, is if we find people are not complying with these numbers and the TIF and this money that we are putting forth that we're not receiving that benefits the residents of Springfield, the residents of Springfield should feel that we're holding these developers accountable, and they would have to rescind and give us that money back, or the money that they say they have to pay. Because it's time and time again that we are issuing out these TIFs, but there's no meat on the bone, there's no teeth that holds these developers to the fire to make sure that we mean business and we're being serious when it comes to who we give TIFs to, and honestly, when it comes to the REO numbers. So, Councilor Ramos, obviously you have my full support. I want to be added as a co-sponsor, but I think after we implement this amendment, if we continuously find that this continuously to be a problem even after we implement this, I think that we should entertain a clawback as a piece of another thing that we can put on the, maybe we can talk about that as another amendment that we can add. I don't want to push the gas a little bit, but I think it's important that we send the message that when it comes to accountability, not only in police reform, but when it comes to developers, and if you want to do business with the city of Springfield, that the city council means business, and we want the best, what's best for the city of Springfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. And Camille, if we could please add Councilor Gomez as well as Councilor Letterman as a co-sponsor. Councilor Ramos, it seemed like you wanted to respond to something that was said.
Yes, Mr. President. Councilor Gomez, thank you for saying that. The clawback is actually a part of the original TIF ordinance and ASIP ordinance. It was actually the purpose. It was actually what gave the ordinance teeth, like you said. Had this ordinance been enforceable back in October, November, then it would have required Big Y to either make efforts to comply with those numbers by the end of the project, or the city would have the option of the clawback. Unfortunately, because of this language, it made the ordinance unenforceable in the opinion of the law department, so we were unable to enforce the clawback. But yes, the clawback is part of the ordinance.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Thank you, Councilor Gomez. Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Gomez, Councilor, I did the same thing as Councilor Letterman because I was looking. Councilor Ramos, thank you so much for always doing your due diligence and looking at all avenues of whatever you enforce. That's really greatly appreciated. I definitely support you. And I did get a little bit lost because I got distracted. Can you tell me how this will now be enforceable? and why it wasn't before? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Sure. So according to the legal opinion that was given to us by the law department, in their opinion, this ordinance is unenforceable because it ties it to the responsible employer ordinance, which is an ordinance that refers to public funded construction projects. And that would not have stood up in court, in their opinion, if challenged. So once we amend this language, then it will be enforceable.
Okay, so we just have to untie it?
And tie it with the responsible employer ordinance, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. So I definitely support you. Again, thank you for your due diligence always, and I would also like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Camille, can we please add Councilor Whitfield as a co-sponsor as well? Councilor Edwards, followed by Councilor Williams.
First of all, I'd like to thank my colleague, Councilor Ramos, for the due diligence on this issue. The meeting that he was making reference to was a REO meeting, and as such, I'd like to pay deference to Councilor Allen for his work as well. In many years, we have worked on this committee and on this issue for longer than we would like to think. But I also would like to be included as a co-sponsor. Secondly, I recently requested from one of the compliance officers that the entire council be sent an update on the construction of the schools that are going on across the city in terms of their hiring. And what I was told was that that the numbers are really good, that we should be very satisfied with what he would be presenting to us. That request was made approximately a week ago. And in fact, it was the second request that I've made. I sent something back about maybe a month or so earlier, but I'm hopeful in the very near future, you will all receive the most updated numbers. I also like to just simply quickly state that while I appreciate the value of the private investment across the city, but it would also benefit our community if the employment was tied to the use of the public money. It's great to have projects all over the city going on, but if they're going to use public money, then the most benefit we can get is to have our families and neighbors and friends working from the city of Springfield. And one of the things that we're most proud of about the REO is the historic number of women that are making a livable wage into the construction trades. And it's something that all our colleagues on the council should be very proud of. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. And if we could also add Councilor Edwards as a co-sponsor, it would be greatly appreciated. Councilor Williams, followed by Councilor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would also like to be added as a co-sponsor. Just also want to give a shout out to Councilor Ramos for, looking into this, and it certainly makes sense for that language to be parallel. And I also just want to thank the councilors that worked on both of those pieces of legislation. And just in the effort of diversity, and I think further inclusion, I think these things really matter to be on the books. Councilor Edwards spoke to my point about kind of just the enforcement body to actually be on site, and kind of look into the numbers and analyze, how many women, veterans, whoever are actually working is certainly crucial. And I was just wondering how many compliance officers, if anyone can maybe just speak to, do we have actually on the books for the city?
I can do that if it's to the president.
Go ahead, Councilor Edwards.
Actually, we have two compliance officers, and before I even get too far into that, I just wanted to pay homage to and mention that Lindsay Hackett is on the meeting as well. She is a committee member. I believe Pat Sullivan was on. I don't know if he's still on available, but he's also a member of the committee. And I'm Fiore Grassetti, president of the Ironworkers Union, and our local friend and union friend has been on the committee since its inception. It's been a collective effort, so I appreciate the work of everybody, including former city councilor, present State Representative Bud Williams, who was also one of the founding members of the committee as well. But that being said, there are two compliance officers, and the role of the compliance officer is to, in fact, to be able to go on site to actually count people, check the numbers, and confirm what is being reported weekly by these contractors and attorney. I believe Hope Button is an attorney, but she is one of the compliance officers, and the other one is Patrice Chase Swan, and we really appreciate the work they've done. The unfortunate thing is this is the type of thing where without the proper oversight, people will cheat, numbers will come in. We know historically from our past work, Tim can attest to this, that we've had contractors come in with whole crews with the same address. They'll put false numbers down. So it is important to have people on the ground so they can actually go count hit. And it did take quite a while for us to get to the point where we had these resources in place. So with that being said, I appreciate the work of the administration and the support from the mayor and from TJ and his and Lindsay as well.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Councilor Williams, were you all set, or? Councilor Williams?
Mr. President, yeah, I work for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mr. President, I'm all set. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Williams. Councilor Brown, followed by Councilor Allen.
I also would like to be added as a co-sponsor. I want to thank all my colleagues, Councilor Ramos, Councilor Edwards, and my other fellow councilors. I understand as my colleague, Councilor Edwards, has spoken of, because I've personally been to certain sites and inspected the same wrongs going on. Some of the construction sites that have been going on in my area. And I just commend Councilor Ramos, because I also know him being a union guy and him, understanding a lot of that construction stuff and how it goes. Sitting there and understanding that, a lot of times they like to play games with this stuff. So I commend my colleagues, and I just would like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. Madam Clerk, if we could add Councilor Brown as well as Councilor Williams as co-sponsors, it'd be greatly appreciated. Councilor Allen, followed by Councilor Davila.
Thanks, Mr. President. Yes, I would also like to be added as a co-sponsor, please. And just want to say kudos to Councilor Ramos for staying with this and following it through, and to Councilor Edwards for his unyielding chairmanship of the REO committee, which is not an easy job. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Davila.
Thank you, Mr. President. My compliments to Councilor Ramos for doing such a great job on this. It appears to me that this new language will really strengthen the TIF ordinance and will give it no room for misrepresentation or misinterpretation. And so my compliments to Councilor Ramos. I also, Mr. President, would like to join this ordinance as a co-sponsor as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Davila. Madam Clerk, if we could please add Councilor Allen as well as Councilor Davila as co-sponsors, it would be greatly appreciated. Councilor Ramos, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to all my colleagues for your support on this ordinance. This is what we mean when we talk about passing meaningful pieces of legislation that can change people's lives. This sort of ordinance can really change a person's life by providing them an opportunity to seek employment in a meaningful field with great pay and great benefits. So thank you all for supporting this. I just want to make one quick small change to the ordinance under the advice of the law department. Again, I spoke to them earlier today. They advised that we amend the language in chapter 355-15, paragraph A, section 6, where it reads, on public construction projects, those first words shall be changed to on TIF projects. And I make that in the form of a motion, Mr. President.
So there is a motion made.
So moved.
By Councilor Ramos, seconded by Councilor Gomez. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on the amendment?
Yes. This is on the amendment. Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton. Yes, Councilor Fenton.
I think his call dropped off right now.
Dropped off.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Raymond. Yes,
Yes.
Councilor Ramus.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Earth.
Yes. If there's no further questions or comments or discussion from the council, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on taking first step on this ordinance?
Councilor Gomez. Councilor Gomez.
Yes, I apologize.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton. Councilor Fenton.
Absent.
Absent, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Ramus.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Earth.
Yes, first step on this ordinance has been approved. Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
I have here item number 12 under unfinished businesses, ordinance for police commissioner and community police hearing board.
Is there any action to be taken on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the next item on the agenda?
Under unfinished businesses, item number 13, special act related to outstanding fines, fees, penalties related to fireworks.
Is there any action to be taken on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the next item on the agenda?
Item number 14, under unfinished business, local acceptances, benefits for military leave.
Is there any action to be taken on this item?
Actually, Mr. President, if I may.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
I reported at the last committee meeting that a meeting had been held of the General Government Committee. We are still awaiting numbers and some information from TJ when TJ gets back to us and prepared to offer the numbers that he is calculating. We will have another General Government Committee to settle this, but it is pointed in the right direction. It seems like it's going to be something we're going to be able to get done. And we apologize to all the veterans and who are of public service for the delay, but it's just been more difficult than we anticipated.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. Madam Clerk, will you please call the next item on the agenda?
Item number 15, under unfinished businesses, collective bargaining agreement ratification, SCSBA.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there any action to be taken on this item? Councilor Ramos.
Mr. President, just wanted to reiterate what I mentioned in my committee report earlier, that this item is on for discussion at the next public safety meeting, which will be next Tuesday, the 27th. I believe is at 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Madam Clerk, will you please call the next item on the agenda?
Item number 16, under unfinished businesses, unexpected bond proceeds to municipal golf course project, $100 million.
Thank you. Is there any action to be taken on this item?
A motion to take it out of committee.
There's a motion to take it out of committee.
$1 million.
$1 million, yes, I corrected, $1 million.
So there's a motion to take it out of committee. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Walsh. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on taking this item out of committee?
Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Fenton. Councilor Fenton. Absent. Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Raymond.
No.
No. Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Letterman.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Ernst.
Yes. Is there anyone present to speak to this item?
Thank you, Mr. President. Lindsay Hackett, Deputy CAFO for the city. So we were able to discuss this order in a little more detail today at the Finance Subcommittee meeting. So thank you, Councilor Whitman, for putting that on the agenda for today. If there's any additional questions, we're using, again, as a reminder, we're using unexpended bond proceeds from both Brookings and Dryden schools in the amount of $1 million to repair both golf courses, sand traps for both golf courses. It's something that's been on the capital plan since as long as I've been here. And it's just kind of a perfect storm of an increase in usage of the golf courses, an increased revenue stream that we're seeing, and the opportunity to get some work done over there that's been long waiting. So Pat Sullivan's also on the line if you have any questions specifically for him.
Pat, did you want to say anything?
Yes, I want to thank the council for taking this up so quickly and to the finance department for bringing this forward. I would also like to stress that it will also be, the funds will be used to dredge both the irrigation ponds at both golf courses. Currently, we're spending over $80,000 a year in water sewer bills for Franconia because it has silted in, which is something that happens every 10 to 15 years, depending on weather, and that's been accelerated with the storms over the last 3 to 5 years. So it's imperative that we move forward and start making these necessary repairs at both golf courses.
Thank you, Pat. And Councilor Letterman, I see your hand is raised, but if you don't mind, if I could just go to Councilor Whitfield first. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Councilor Whitfield, so I know this came out of your committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your yield, Councilor Letterman. I just wanted to say that we did speak to this unexpended bond extensively in the Finance Committee meeting, and it was determined that there's only specific uses that the unexpended bond funds can be used for. It's a 20-year bond. There's a listing of what it can be used for, and like I said, that list was sent to us today by Lindsay. I'm not sure if the council got it, but it will be forwarded by tomorrow, so you can look at what it can be used for, but they're very specific. The reason I'm supporting this is because of the revenue that comes in, so we're not really going to lose money. Our water bill is going to go down. We're going to gain more revenue. It's possible that we can entice more tournaments to come to the area, and it's just a win-win. It's not a revenue losing situation. It's going to actually bring in more revenue that we can use for some of the other projects that the community is asking for, and also that the other counselors are asking for. And so I hope that my colleagues will see this as a benefit and also vote in favor of passing this unexpended bond. Pat, I just do have one question. When would the construction start?
We're gonna be ready to start immediately. We've done some groundwork on the necessary permits for the irrigation ponds, and we're gonna work with Capital Asset and expedite this. So I'm hopeful that the golfers start seeing these improvements as soon as next year when they're golfing the golf courses.
Thank you very much. I do encourage our colleagues to look at the capital plan so you can see everything that's on it and what's in the A and B categories, and, you know, make educated, informed decisions on what you want to see so that we can bring that back to the finance team. They're open to listening to our suggestions, and there's other funding out there, as Councilor Letterman points out, that we could use for some of the other community needs. But these particular funds have to be used for specific purposes, and so I'm in full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Letterman, followed by Councilor Allen.
Yeah, just two quick questions, Mr. President. First, Lindsay, can you, I heard this number in the Finance Committee. I wanted to make sure that I had it right. Did you say that, or how much, I guess I should ask, how much unexpended bond proceeds will still be left after this expense and the expense on the dispatch center?
I believe Tim had the numbers, and I believe it's close to 800,000.
Okay, that was what I thought. And then my second question was for Pat, relative to the dredging of the ponds. Can you just speak to, again, how that's going to impact with the water rate?
Yeah, so currently we water both golf courses from Franconia is with the Pacusic Brook, and the Veterans is actually part of the Mill Pond stream system. And what happens is we are probably at the end of both of those areas. So, for example, Wilbraham, Hamden is where the Pacusic Brook starts from. So we get all that sediment that floats downstream, and it ends up filling in the irrigation pond. And so every 10 to 15 years, you need to go in and dredge that. The last big dredging was in 1999. And both dredging projects require DEP permitting and so forth. So it's a lengthy process. The permitting alone costs $20,000 per course just to get the permits to do this work. And then it'll be another $80,000 to do the dredging. So there's $100,000 at each course right there. But we're like I indicated, because it's sediment, the last 2 years, we've had to spend $80,000 just to water the courses. On the plus side, you see the revenue has gone up, so it's money well spent. A green at a golf course is worth $35,000 to $40,000. So you don't want to not water the courses, because then you lose that asset. So it's a huge asset for the city to have 2 golf courses, and this is money well spent to protect that asset.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman, Councilor Allen, followed by Councilor Williams.
Thanks, Mr. President. I can remember being asked about this, I'd say 5 or 6 years ago, by one of the workers at the course. Pat, can you say how long you've been waiting for this, or this has been on the capital plan?
Yeah, well, yeah, I would want to say it's been projects for like 15 years. It would be great if we could ever come up with a system where we self-fund improvements on a yearly basis, but I realize that the city has, steep financial commitments that we need to make. So again, with any type of organic entity like a golf course, you really need to be making yearly investments in that to protect it. But so this is 10 years overdue, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilor Williams, followed by Councilor Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just had 2 quick questions. First, what is just the overall total project, the budget for this in regards to what the $1 million will be towards? And just a second question I had was, will there be any disruption of play due to the updates that need to be made to the golf course? And if so, in turn, will that affect the revenue stream for our next fiscal year?
So, we have a greater need of more than $1 million at the 2 golf courses. However, we will take the highest need areas at both golf courses for repair. when you do a repair on a golf course, you can set up a temporary green or temporary tees, whatever is being affected. So historically, we've never lost play during any construction at the golf courses, other than when we did a renovation of Franconia roughly 20 years ago. We did shut the golf course down for a year to accomplish that. So I don't think you'll see a loss in revenue due to these improvements.
Okay, I appreciate that, Pat. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Williams. Councilor Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to remind everybody that when we first started discussing the unexpended bond proceeds at the last regular meeting, we initially started with $2.9 million. It was, I believe, roughly $900,000 that we approved for the dispatch center. $1 million is being proposed this evening for golf courses. And then that will leave us with $981,000 as was mentioned at the previous meeting, totaling $2.9 million. And when you consider what we can do with that sort of money, there are many other alternatives that would be preferable in my mind, and that are much more urgent. Many other projects, many other places where we can spend this money and really make improvements where they're needed. I keep arguing for private ways. There are counselors that have argued for more, opportunities for seniors, more services for seniors. However, the issue is that we've been told that these unexpended bond proceeds can only be used for certain projects. So the average person who saw the article in the newspaper or saw it on the news a few weeks ago, they look at this as, well, why aren't we using it for our kids? Why aren't we using it to improve the accessibility for the internet or for whatever, right? And everybody has ideas as to how we can spend $3 million, or in this case, $1 million. But there are certain areas where we can spend this money on. And, I reviewed actually FY20's capital improvement plan, which are essentially a list of projects where some of this money could have been used. And I have in front of me the FY21 capital improvement project. And what we were told in the committee meeting was that this project was actually a priority B project. It wasn't a priority A project. And I just want to give you an idea of some of the projects that are listed as priority A, so that we all know which projects we are neglecting to fund in favor of this priority B project golf courses. So just so you have an idea, priority A, $1 million for boilers at Indian Orchard Elementary School. New voting machines, which we mentioned earlier in the meeting, is a priority A capital improvement plan. Demolition of abandoned residential buildings for $1.5 million. $1 million HVAC and energy management system upgrade at Harris Elementary School. Kennedy sprinklers, $1.2 million. Van Horn Phase 2, Van Horn Park, $1.5 million. So those are just some of the priority A projects that we're not going to fund with this unexpended bond proceeds in favor of these golf courses. I just want to make that very clear. And let's take a look at priority B, because this golf course is a priority B project. So out of all of the priority B projects, which is an extensive list, I have about 5 pages total here. Just some of the highlights: Camp Angelina redevelopment, $1.7 million. 5 Mile Pond, Phase 1, $1.5 million. Citywide splash pad replacements, $1 million. Indian Orchard Elementary School roof replacement, $1.5 million. Dorman, $1.5 million roof replacement. Brunton School roof replacement, $1.2 million. Glenwood roof replacement, $760,000. Helena School, we talk about Helena and all of the improvements that need to be made in Helena. There is, the Helena School ejection pumps are listed for $1.5 million, and Helena School seal walls exterior, $1.5 million. So we could have essentially taking care of most of the issues that are hit our school for the total of the $2.9 million, essentially. But we're not. We're choosing to spend this money on golf courses. I respect the fact that this is one of the few revenue-generating departments that we have in our city, but it is generating revenue right now. It is. It's making money. Not supporting these improvements is not going to affect the fact that it's making money. It's still making money. And while I know and I respect the fact that it is much needed, while I know that this is an asset to the city, and it's a moneymaker, I just can't, it doesn't feel right for me to prioritize this over some of the other projects that I mentioned. I just can't look at my constituents in the eye and say that I'm not going to vote to fix your kid's school because we need to fix our golf courses first. I mean, if you all feel comfortable saying that to your constituents, you vote for it. That's the beauty of being an elected official on this body, is that one counselor equals one vote, and you use it however way you choose. But I'm going to choose to vote no this evening because it just doesn't sit right with me.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Councilor
President?
Whitfield. Yes, Pat?
Yeah, I appreciate Councilor Ramos's comments, and I just wanted to point out the projects that were listed are required by the state to list on a city document. When you apply for these grants, you have to have them part of your capital improvement plan. For example, the Frederick Harris project that you mentioned for HVAC upgrades was just chosen this past year by the MSBA, so that now will be coming off. We have submitted for Harena and for the majority of those projects through the MSBA funding. So those are all projects that can get either state or federal funds, and that's why they're on the capital improvement plan. The golf course work that we need to do does not have a grant funding source that we've been able to identify that would get this work done. And again, it just breaks my heart that we're spending that $80,000 a year on water bills when we could have free water to maintain it. So that's the logic that I'm using, and I would ask that maybe you reconsider supporting this, because it's going to save the taxpayer money by taking this action tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say that we have to tell the truth when we talk about the narrative and what the bonds can be used for. Now, I know that people have contacted me about not being, happy with what the bonds are being used for. But if you go down the capital plan, I don't think election machines can be paid for with this bond because of the useful life of the 20 years or greater. So I don't think that that's a capital project that this funds can be used for. And even private ways, it cannot be used for with these funds. And so we need to make, we need to use these funds. Like Pat said, we can get MSBA funding and other funding to support the school projects, which he's applying for, which he always applied for, even for Harena. And so I just want to make sure that we are telling accurate information to the public as a council. And as the finance chair, I really want folks to really be informed of what's going on. The 20-year useful life cannot be used for every single project on the capital plan. And we can go down the list because there's section A, there's section B, and there's section C. And I used to help write the capital plan for the school side. And so I know that all of these projects cannot be funded with a 20-year bond. Some can be funded with a 30-year bond, some with a 20-year bond, 10 and 5. But as Lindsay and TJ said in the finance committee meeting, for a 20-year bond, you can only go up, not down. Private ways can only be funded with a 5-year bond. So we couldn't possibly use this bond to pay for private ways. And I don't think that we could use it for election machines, which we already talked about using some of the offset of the revenue that's going to be saved in the elections department, which I brought up earlier in the finance meeting. We're going to try to use some of that savings to buy election machines. So I think that too will fall off of the capital plan. So this money will help generate more revenue for the city that goes into the general fund that can be used for other projects. It doesn't go into a revolving account or any type of special account. It goes to the general fund. It generates revenue, and that revenue, the extra additional revenue, can be used to fund some of these other projects that the community is looking for. And so I just wanted to make sure that we're clear in our messaging and what the bond fund can be used for. And so again, I support the project because it's not losing us money, it's building revenue, it's bringing people to the community. But golf is one of the things that's doing very well in the city of Springfield, and so we might as well keep that trend going and bring more revenue to the city so that we can afford some of the other projects that the council is looking for. TJ and Lindsay also offered us to get a list together as a council on some of the improvements that we want to see done, so we can talk about it as a collective, and so that the bond funds aren't going to the golf course without our knowledge and other projects like that. And so I'm in the process of putting that list together and having that meeting. So if there's anyone that also wants to put some of the projects that is important to them on the list and have a discussion about them and how we can prioritize together, let's do that. But let's not put out false information about what these bonds can be used for.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Gomez, followed by Councilor Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say thank you to Madam Chairwoman for today's meeting, being a good steward of the information and educating people on the process. And as we move along, I think it's important for us to, use this specific issue as an educational to the citizens of Springfield. I am one and always been a proponent for open space, and also specifically when it comes to Harena. Today, there was a press release that was released by the administration that we are as close as we can be to fixing the Harena Tunnel. I just wanted to say that it was released around 4:30 this afternoon, which this is something I would have used and said that, hey, what about Harena? And I've been doing it for 5 years, right, since I've been on this council. Respectfully, Councilor Ramos has always, put private ways first, and specifically when it comes to his constituents. I've agreed with him, 99.9% of the time. I'm a person, let's be honest, I didn't go golfing till the first time till last Friday, and I got rained out, and I went out to Franconia. And for some reason, I said yes to go golfing so then I can see exactly what was this money going to be used for. And I went out there, and, as funny as it is, I seen how, the sand traps were awful, right? And to me, I've never, I've played, mini golf and stuff like that, but I can't be, when I look at all of those projects that Councilor Ramos had recognized, I tell myself any of those projects bring any type yield, any type of income to the city of Springfield. And knowingly now that I had to really outweigh the perspective of, COVID-19, not knowing when a vaccine is going to be here, and knowingly that there's a chance we might not go back to school. Not saying that we don't want to fix these buildings, not saying that we don't want to fix these structures or these roads, but honestly, I had to outweigh the beneficial part of it of something that is legally able to open, and it brings revenue. Maybe it doesn't bring a substantial amount of money up to $1 million as of right now, but I think that, anybody that's, economically sound can look at, like I stated in the finance meeting, is that, we have to look at one, yes, once these repairs are done and it starts generating some type of wealth for the citizens of Springfield into the city. And then I asked TJ of, that where does this money that is generated go? And it says it goes into the general fund. And I know that some conversations that we try to figure out, which we had pots of money that generate, which are revenue boosters. And during COVID-19, we have to figure out in the next 2 to 3 years, respectfully, obviously, I know I'm not going to be here in 2 to 3 years, but how can we best benefit the general fund, or figure out other ways to be instrumental on finding avenues like what we like what the council did with the different pots of marijuana money, and then obviously the pot of money of MGM money that hasn't been or found a way to been put out to the rest of the for community to be able to access. I think it gives us a chance to really look at something lucrative in a system that legislatively this body can put together. And say, you know, any money that the administration or the city of Springfield brings in, and if this is an economic development opportunity to make money, and we know that it's cold hard right in front of us and it's already making money, why wouldn't we want to put that in our best foot forward to make sure that that revenue stream, because we don't know how long COVID-19 is going to last, right? And we need some way, somehow, because we're going to be entering some dark times that we have to be really real. When we're talking about, we have to be honest to our people. I can't really look at the fact that we can leave $500,000 on the table. You know, $500,000 in the next 3 years or 2 years, specifically when it comes to open space or revenue that comes to the city, is something that, you know, I had to really put that hat on and really look at what's going to bring, you know, more, like they said, golf tournaments or more things. And I'm going to be honest, I don't play golf, right? I don't, but I had to look at one thing is the type of grant it was, or the bond, right? Because it's not grant money. It's not money that we're receiving from somebody. This is a bond. This is basically like a loan. And if respectfully, none of the projects fall under that criteria, and none of those projects are actually going to execute and bring us money, you know, those are the things that we have to look into. So then down the line, when that money's in the black, right? When you work with any organization, when you get grants or you get money from the state or whatever it is, you know, you try to make sure that that money that you get, because you don't know if you're going to get it next time, right? You don't know if you're going to get an opportunity, but you have a chance to generate some revenue. Actually, it could be able to create money that then, you know what, that pot of money that we generated, regardless if it's in the general fund, and if we come together as a body to work together to legislate something, that we can make sure that the money that's generated that effectively that it doesn't mean that we have to spend another $1 million on those golf courses. Like I think what Pat had alluded to, that we can use that money so then that stays just golf money, or it stays into a place where the money can go to, you know, open space. And we have that leisure of creating that kind of language. I think this opens up a way for us to really think progressive ways of doing so. We have great things to our leisure now, like the CPA, right, that has done extraordinary things in the city of Springfield. We have that MGM money that Councilwoman Whitfield is going to hold a meeting on, and we've had respectfully talked about. Obviously, we haven't been able to open the door on cultivation or you know, or the dispensaries haven't opened, so we haven't been able to fill those pots of money. But we haven't even created that vehicle that makes that money attainable not only to these community members. And I've took a look at that survey that the community members right now that have put together, that was led by Ms. Tiffany Alicia. But I think it's important for us to use this as an educational component to look at which ways, because one thing that we want when we fight for justice, and one thing that we see in Black and brown communities, regardless of if Black and brown people aren't golfing, from what I understand, people there is people of color that do golf, but essentially, regardless of how the money comes in, making sure that even though our communities don't go up there to go play golf, that money still is being spread around economically, and we have an equitably, I mean, and it's spread around, and make sure that we have that kind of justice, right? Economic justice, because that's what we're looking for. So I plan to support this. It's bittersweet. Obviously, I want to see Arena get done. I want to make sure that the roofs at Dryden get done, and we want to make sure that we are looking at this. But I have to be honest and look at my constituents and say, we have to make sure that we're sustainable and that we can keep above water. Because if it wasn't for MGM is the only thing that keeps us what? It keeps us level funded. So now we have to continue figuring out ways that we're going to stay level funded, because if the COVID keeps on going on, And if MGM is not going to stay open, we're not going to be level funded. And some folks were around for those times when we were furloughing people here in the city of Springfield. So we have to figure out ways, and this is just one of them. It's hard to support this, but I have to be realistic and make sure that we're generating revenue for the city of Springfield to make sure that we stay sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gomez. And we don't, as a golfer, I don't want to see you out on the course too often, or else Pat Sullivan will be back here asking for more money to repair the course.
I was killing the green. I'll tell you that. And that's how I'll keep it.
Councilor Ramos. He said those were $40,000 a green. Councilor Ramos.
Mr. President, thank you. And thanks to all of my colleagues. Look, I respect all of you. I respect however you choose to vote this evening. You know, I made it clear that I'm going to vote no. It's my choice, it's my vote. That's the way I'm going to vote. What really doesn't sit well with me is the source of the money. I completely agree that that we should look towards, you know, improving the golf courses. But in taking this vote, we're neglecting to address the other dozen or so projects that I just mentioned. And that just doesn't sit well with me. If the money were coming from a different source, from the general fund or from free cash even, I would probably support it. But because it's coming from an unexpended bond bill and a bond that was meant to improve schools, you know, it just really doesn't sit well with me. What would make me feel better is if we had a plan for private ways. And again, the finance department has made it very clear that this bond cannot be used. This money cannot be used for private ways. I understand that. But each time that we're faced with an opportunity to spend leftover money, whether it's free cash, whether it's a unexpended bond, I asked the question about private ways, and we have a conversation, and I get all these promises that, yeah, we're gonna have that conversation. Yeah, I'll talk to the mayor and we'll get back to you. And years later, here we are again with no plan for private ways. So it would make me feel better if we had a plan for private ways, number one, but it would also make me feel better if we had a plan for these smaller school projects. Years ago, when I was, before I even chose to run for public office, I was I was just a young carpenter, and I was getting involved with my union. And one of our organizers came up with an idea, along with a local organization, to sort of combine several smaller school projects to make it into one big project that we can bond for, and hire, you know, a single general contractor to manage all of these projects so that we can do them all at once. It was a great idea. I think that it would certainly save us a lot of money in terms of procurement and you know, the bidding process. It will save us a lot of headaches from, you know, having to manage just you know, one major project rather than 6 or 7 smaller projects. And I still think that it's a good idea. So if we had a plan like that in place, say we were going to do 4 or 5 school roofs, using one bid, you know, that would make me feel better, because, you know, and again, it would make it one big project, which will probably fall under the REO and provide job opportunities for local people, which is something that we talked about earlier tonight. But we don't have any of that right now. You know, we don't have a plan for to combine these projects to make it and save money. We don't have a plan for private ways. The money's coming from this unexpended bond bill rather than the general fund. I love the idea that Councilor Gomez mentioned of, you know, perhaps passing some legislation that would keep some of the, a certain percentage of the revenue that is generated by the golf courses to be set aside for the purpose of making improvements in the golf courses and in other parks across the city. I think that's a great idea. That way we can directly connect the revenue to the money that's being spent on improvements. I would like to say that, you know, we're using money that was generated by the golf courses to reinvest it into the golf courses, but the reality is that we're not using that pot of money. we're using a different pot of money. And that's the one part that just doesn't feel right to me. And that's the reason why I'm going to vote no. But again, everybody votes the way they want. I might be outvoted 1 to 12, but that's just my vote. But again, I want to make it clear again for the 100th time that I want to see a plan for private ways, and I don't know what it's going to take for me to get the attention of the administration to address private ways in the city. What do I have to do? I mean, do I have to invoke a rule? I mean, do we have to go that route? Do I have to object to Rule 19 and drag this out? I mean, what else do I need to do to get the attention of the administration to say that I'm serious about private ways, that we need a plan for private ways? There are people in our city that are living in roads that reflect, that look like they're living in a road in a third world country. We've all heard the complaints, potholes. I mean, and still years later, we're still having this conversation. It's disappointing, Mr. President. And I don't know what else to do.
Thank you, Councilor Ramos. Councilor Williams, followed by Councilor Letterman.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just speaking about this topic, you know, sometimes when I hear discussion about like golf courses, it just feels sometimes that, you know, we cast aspersion because it's certain, you know, it's a part of a certain neighborhood, or we perceive only a certain kind of people to frequent those locations. And I gotta say, you know, this is for me a little bit personal because I have a cousin, and God rest his soul, I miss him every day. Kamari, as you all know, he was an avid golf player. And he used to sit me down and teach me how, you know, the rules of the game and what it consisted of, and try to get me on the golf, you know, course a little bit too, but I'm more of a tennis guy. But, you know, it really, for me, we really have to be careful with how we talk about, especially around sports, where sports are enjoyed by all types of people. For me, you know, again, you know, I think about the days of when I was in high school, and with my advocacy started the league at Commerce, where men could play tennis for the first time throughout the region. So it's like, you know, there's folks of all creeds, ethnicities that enjoy all of the ventures we have in the city of Springfield. And I want to also just talk about the fact that, you know, this is a project that's been needing improvement for upward of, you know, 6 to 7 years. So, you know, the projects that were listed and named part of the plan, I'm quite sure have some years behind them as well. So it's not like this was just put up immediately. We're you know, expected to vote on it, not having known about it before. You know, this is something that's definitely needed improvement. It is a cash kind of cow in a sense for revenue produced by the patrons that visit the courses. And, you know, I just think that, again, we have to be careful. I know we all as counselors care about the needs of our respective communities and wards. And I just kind of, you know, not disagree too much because, you know, Councilor Ramos, I do agree with you on many things. But again, just being careful in how we talk about the other needs that, of course, every single ward has. But I'm also probably sure that every person or every counselor here has a person that plays golf in their ward as well. You know what I mean? So, you know, I think this is, it's not just something I want to compare to other things, because there's a lot of needs in the city of Springfield, and we're all aware of that. But speaking about the time needed, or the time that's kind of elapsed already in terms of the improvements needed, as well as the fact that this is a cash earner, and to Pat Sullivan's point, helps taxpayers in the long run, I think is something we have to consider. And that's all I want to say, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Williams. Councilor Letterman, followed by Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I hadn't intended to speak on this particular item, but I did want to make a couple of points. Let me start by saying I've never golfed a day in my life, not because there's anything wrong with golfing, but because I don't particularly spend a lot of time recreating. Those of you that know me know that when I'm not working at my day job, I spend pretty much every waking hour, either in this room, my home office, talking with all of you about ways to serve our community, or out in our community, talking with our constituents about ways to improve Springfield. So before my election, I had been known to play a little bit of tennis. With that said, I will admit that I was skeptical about this particular proposal for the unexpended bond proceeds at first as well. I certainly supported putting it into committee and being able to get the facts and the numbers. And the reason I want to speak up is that I don't really think it's an appropriate analogy to say that to vote in favor of this particular expense is to vote to not fund those other items, particularly because, as the director pointed out, those other items do have funding sources in the pipeline to move forward. And this particular item, as it's been presented to us, is a particular piece of infrastructure that, you know, is in need of improvement, which seems like we all agree on. They generate about 1.6 million in revenue a year, and they cost about 1.4 million to run, which was presented to us in our committee meeting today. So they're generating about $200,000 in revenue a year so far into the general fund. Pat says this will lead to an $80,000 reduction in the watering bill, so that'll be additional funds that can move forward. But it's actually for that reason that I think these might be appropriate types of funds to use. Our colleague, Councilor Ramos, who I certainly appreciate and have great respect for, mentioned, you know, other funding sources such as free cash or something like that. But the truth is that the proceeds that come from the golf courses themselves will help to pay the debt service that is associated with the unexpended bond. And I think that in the long run, that will actually enable us to be in a better financial position to be able to bond for the necessary expenditures on future capital plans. Whereas if we spent something like free cash, we're spending all the money at once on this particular item, even though it's something that is going to have a payback period. And so I think for those reasons, I'm comfortable being able to support the funding, especially because, again, we've been told that, you know, the funding can't be spent on private ways. And I know we had this discussion last time. I'm certainly someone else who has spoken with the DPW about private ways, along with Councilor Ramos. But I think, you know, I think that what we have to be very clear with in being transparent for our constituents is, listen, if I saw a headline that said the city council was just going to spend $1 million on golf courses, I might have questions about it as well. And I did have questions about it when we first came forward. But from visiting with the committee meetings, you know, I think that we've identified that this is not a fiscally irresponsible thing to do. And my last point would just be on the dispatch centers, which the unexpended bonds were approved for last time. I can tell you that I've heard many concerns about dispatch that are associated with the fact that the dispatch centers are in two separate places, the least of which, are one of the most important pieces, I should say, is the supervision. Being able to supervise and train dispatchers appropriately. Dispatchers are the first people that individuals who are having an emergency situation of any kind, whether that's a health emergency, a public safety emergency, those are the first people that they come into contact with. And then at the same time, those are the first people that are first responders, whether it be emergency paramedics, fire, or police, come into contact with. And that is very important in terms of the tone that is set going into any type of operation. So for us to have the absolute most trained and up-to-date emergency dispatch center, I think is something that's of the utmost importance to our community, and also is going to save us money in the long run, because we just had to approve additional OT for emergency dispatch that was directly related to the fact that we were understaffed, because we acknowledged the fact that dispatchers were having to leave in higher numbers than we would like, and we had to keep retraining and being short-staffed on dispatch. So certainly I appreciate that we have a lot of investments that need to be made in the community. I'm certainly one that's been very much an advocate for being creative about how we earmark funds for those investments. And I appreciate everybody's perspective here today. And I think it's very important, the least of which, no matter how someone votes tonight, that, you know, we did our due diligence on getting all the numbers, and that we continue to do so.
Thank you, Councilor Letterman. Councilor Whitfield, followed by Councilor Fan.
Thank you. This will be my final comment on this. I just wanted to back up a little bit and say I also respect everyone's opinion, and Councilor Ramos is right. Everyone's entitled to vote however they want to vote. When this unexpended bond originally came to the council, I had the same skepticism of, what other projects can we be working on besides the golf course with unexpended bonds? And so during the research, the bond funds just cannot be used on everything, and that's just a fact. And if we did use general fund money, we have more flexibility with general fund money than we do with an unexpended bond. So I think it makes more sense to look at general fund money in the opposite of what Councilor Ramos said. Look at general fund money to put to more projects instead of the golf course, because the unexpended bonds can only be used for certain projects. And so with that, I wanted to also piggyback on what Councilor Williams says about the importance of projects and you know, saying that a golf course isn't important. My dad, a single senior, would go to the golf course as a way to get out, get some exercise, and also be around people. And that was what he liked to do as the sport. It wasn't basketball or football, or he's not in certain clubs and things like that. It was golf. And so if he didn't have golf, he might not have had access to a community and doing something that he enjoys. And so when Councilor Williams said that we need to be careful on how we look at things as priorities and what's important and what's not, you know, that was something that kept my dad, you know, young and vibrant and happy. And so, you know, when he said that, that resonated with me. And a lot of seniors and a lot of people in the community enjoy golf as a sport. And so it shouldn't be undermined or looked at as less important than other projects. That was something that my dad needed, or he would have been alone a lot of days, except when we were visiting. And so I just wanted to make those few points. And I also wanted to just point out that I lost my train of thought. I'm getting old. So I think everybody on here said everything that needs to be said. And I do respect what Council Ramos said. And this is what I wanted to say. I'm hopeful that we can work together private ways in a way that's, you know, beneficial to all of us. Like, you know, put that plan together and use some of the plans that were in the past. It's not like we can't bring things back from the past and use them in the present. And so what worked before you were a city councilor could work again. But we don't know about those plans. So let's bring our ideas to the table and see how we could work together to get these rules fixed and get the private ways done. Because I definitely think that that's important as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield. Councilor Fenton on the order.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank Ryan Hall and Pat for the great job that they do with the golf course. I think we should support this. I think we should vote on it now. I also want to say personally to you, Mr. President, you said in the committee meeting that your father and your brother used the sand traps as an excuse. That's got to end now. I really do. I think we should vote right now.
With that being said, we will take a vote, certainly in the name of Frederick A. Hurst Sr. and Frederick A. Hurst Jr. On the order, Madam Clerk.
Williams,
Yes, and Kamari Williams, who I played with often and certainly was the better golfer of us all. So anyhow, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on this order? This requires a 2/3 roll call majority vote for passage.
Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes, a plain yes. I know nothing of what he's talking about.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Ramos.
No.
No, Councilor Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Williams.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Allen.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Litterman.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Edwards.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Earth.
Yes, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on suspending Rule 19 to take this order up in one vote?
Yes. Yes, Councilor Gomez. Councilor Gomez.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Whitfield.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Davila.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Fenton.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Curran.
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Ramos. Councilor Ramos. Yes. Absent Council Walsh?
Yes.
Yes. Council Williams?
Yes.
Yes. Council Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Council Letterman?
Yes.
Yes. Council Edwards?
Yes.
Yes. Council Brown?
Yes.
Yes. Council Earth?
Yes, the order is approved. Madam Clerk, is there any further business before the council?
There are no more business in front of the council for tonight.
Thank you. Seeing none, we stand adjourned until 10:20, Monday, October 26th, for our next hearings meeting at 6:30. Have a great evening.
What about those Chiefs?
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, everybody.